All right, so I'm Jessica Burnham. I'm the Director of Master of Arts in Design and Innovation here at SMU in Dallas, Texas. We have our other instructor for our program, Justin Childress, and one of our graduate students, Harrison Tosopoulos. So today we'll walk through a really deep dive into our program and all the things that we have to offer, and excited to share everything with you. So we are the Master of Arts in Design and Innovation. We go by MADI, not MADI or MADI or anything else, just MADI. And we are a 2-year full-time graduate program in human-centered design. We do have part-time tracks available, but we're really designed to be a 2-year full-time program, but we try to be as accommodating as we can with everyone's schedule. But we really focus in on teaching the value of the design process in any field, and that it enables the practice of empathy with and for clients and communities, and explores ambiguity to find meaningful solutions rooted in evidence. So we are supported by both the Lyell School of Engineering and the Meadows School of the Arts, and we say there's nothing that bridges art and design and engineering like design. And so we're really excited that we get to live in this space to hone in on our process of human-centered design, and then how it gets applied with real life clients and in every single class that we offer. So this is our framework. We did not create human-centered design, obviously, but this is our framework that we walk through and model in our classes. And it's really focusing on defining the problem and understanding what is this hyper-local solution, understanding, imagining, and refining that into this space to say, from all the evidence and all the research that we've gathered in the design research process that we've worked into, what do we do next? And so a big part of our process is making and testing and prototyping. So all of our projects always include some kind of prototyping component where we're putting something out in the real world and learning from it. And then we're telling and talking about it. And so how do we not just do great work, but we tell and talk about the impact of the work, how the process went, how do we focus in on the whole picture. We tend to say that we focus more on the process than just the product, because we want to be really outcome agnostic. We don't know what the product will be. So we walk through this process to help us get there. So I'm going to leave it at that, because this is why you go to a graduate program in human-centered design, to learn this framework more. But this is kind of where we're living in kind of our key tenets in some of this space. So then who we are is so important to us, because we really believe that a multidisciplinary approach to this work is required, and not just helpful or beneficial, but it's necessary. And so we're a mix of both design professionals and novices who want to grow in skill sets in order to foster a new mindset towards innovation. So you do not have to have a degree in design or a background in design to be admitted to the program. We want people that come from all over, but we want people that have this desire to learn design and its ability to affect change in this, and basically saying, I think there's something going on with design. I think there's something going on with innovation. And I just think there's got to be a better way. So what can we do? And how does this process really give structure, language, and kind of guide rails onto how you go about doing the work? So our student body is so important, because it's a big mix. So we have, and we'll walk through this a little bit, but we have everyone from K-12 education students to graphic designers, architect, to philanthropy. We've had someone who's had a background in counseling and substance abuse counseling. So it's a huge range. And so we get that because we don't require that design background to come in. All of your instructors have some kind of design, more traditional craft-based design background, but we're all very much trained and focused in on this human-centered approach to say we all got to learn from each other. So we'll get into that a little bit more. But what we do is we put a really big emphasis on our research. So we research through design, and we design through research. So our goal is to provide active and engaged learning environments that encourage students to learn by doing, with this bias to action. So every class that we have is very project-based. There's a lot of group work. There's a lot of how do we talk about a topic? So we're learning this process and these steps and mindsets and characteristics. And then we're saying, okay, well, you need to apply them very quickly. So we're going to jump in and start applying them. And we have real life clients in every class, almost every class, and just really engaged to say we can talk a lot about it, but we also really need to do some things about it. So a great focus on that. And then we also have a very big emphasis on this hyper-local nonprofit and for-profit sector client base. So we're always trying to bring in both sides. We say that we like to merge the line between professional practice and academia as much as we can. So we are inviting people into our space and we're going out into their space and just really being as involved in this city and local area as we can. And we do this because we believe that a design approach really can be used in any field. This human-centered design has been around for a really long time, but it's been interpreted a lot of different ways. And so we're lucky that we get to kind of take our own stance and claim on that here in Dallas. But then we also feel compelled to say, well, if we think it deserves a spot at any table or it can be approached or applied in any field, we have to take it there. So we have to provide opportunities for students to get involved with people like we've worked with the Dallas Mavericks before, or the Dallas Police Department, or Southwest Airlines. So we're always trying to find really different range of clientele and partners to say, the process always works and let us show you how, because we're doing it on all these different spaces. So, but we're pretty sold out and suckers for an opportunity with this. And we love working on this space because it's always new and it's always kind of evolving a little bit, but the foundational truths of this process and what we're trying to accomplish with putting humans at the center of what we're designing is where we want to be. And that's where we're excited to bring in new students and truly to expand that as much as we can. So talking about students, so we currently have 21 students in our group right now. We have 50 alumni. And then our age range is actually 21 to 64, which we love. And that, so we have some students that have come straight out of undergrad. We have some students who have had multiple careers and are coming back. And then again, people with all different backgrounds. And when we talk about this, when it's so open-ended a little bit and so kind of big and can be applied in all these ways, people always say, well, are your students getting jobs? And we say, yes, they are. They're getting great jobs. They're getting really, really exciting jobs. So a lot of students are getting jobs, usually in new sectors. So they've had a certain background. We've had several students with K-12 education backgrounds. They've gone through MADI and now they're working in really great consultancy firms or design research spaces or design strategy spaces. And so I think our biggest kind of nugget here, we have 6 students at the Southwest Airlines innovation space right now, which has been a great partnership and exciting for us to see. And they're always wanting to hire more. So, these are just a big list of where our students have gone. Almost everyone, I would say, of the 50 students that have graduated, 46 of them have landed jobs in the field that they weren't in before or close to it, and then have either graduated or been promoted up or promoted out and up in the same field. So people are sticking to it and they're really applying and really digging their heels in and saying, you know, I wouldn't have gotten this job if it wasn't for MADI. So I'm really excited for our student success here. And if anyone is ever interested in getting connected with a student, happy to make any connections too in the future of how we kind of align backgrounds and goals and what people have gone through already. This is your MADI list of instructors right now. And so it's mostly Justin and I teaching classes. And then we also have a makerspace on campus called the Decent Innovation Gym, or the DIG. And that is where Dr. Seth Orsborn and JT Ringer are working through. They have a whole space that they're just using. It's open to all students, but then we're also working on providing an industrial design or a product design and innovation track that they are helping facilitate and run. It is very much complementary to MADI. And so we're kind of working on how we keep growing that in interesting ways. But then we also are always working with partners again. And one of the best partnership things that we have is our designer in residence program. So every semester we have a really big semester long project, our studio class, which we'll get into. And Justin and I serve as the design experts for that space, but then we always partner with a content expert to say, so example, if we work with the Dallas Mavericks on improving the customer journey from when you get dropped off to a game to when you enter the arena, and we treat that as an event, then we should work with a professional event planner who is really interested in this space. And so we did that with Damani Daniel, who's on the bottom right. He owns a company called The Event Nerd, and he came into our class on a weekly basis and said, we got to learn from him on event expertise and policy and procedures. but then also how that applies to the design practice and with our clients. So we're trying to open up our doors as much as we can and bring in as much expertise as we can that we don't have, and saying, we don't have that, and we want to learn from the experts, not just keep it within our own space. Another way we do that is through a thing called the Design Council. So this is our membership-based group that we try to, again, partner with as many like-minded clients or companies and groups and organizations to say, you're doing really great work in your space, but know that you're not alone. There's a whole graduate program here at SMU that is really fighting for what you are also fighting for. So a lot of times we've heard people say, like, I think I'm the only one at my company that gets this, or we're a really small team within our company and no one knows what to do with us, or things like that. And we say, hey, there's a whole network here that we're trying to really cultivate and steward along in a really helpful way. This also gives our students direct access to industry professionals very quickly. It opens up the door for projects and partnerships and just other kind of professional practice opportunities that we get to work with. So this has been a really important part of our program. So when we say we have the designer in resident program, the design council, and then we have our academic program. So all three of those things are our big efforts to push and show human-centered design and innovation in Dallas. So let's get into the degree plan a little bit more of what this means to be in our program and what this kind of looks like. So it's a minimum of 30 total credit hours. Depending on your electives, those might change. Some of them are 2 credits, some of them are 3. But there is a balance of there's 22 credit hours of core classes, and then there's 8 credits of electives. And then again, there's full-time and part-time options. Each class, and we'll go through these a little more in detail, each class meets once a week for 3 hours or a little, or if it's a 2 credit hour class, it meets a little less. And then there is a high expectation of outside of class work time. We do not have designated lab times that everyone's working together on projects, but it is very much, this is a group project, so we will work in class as much as we can, but you are expected to work outside of class as well. So there is a lot. We want to be really upfront about the workload of saying this is group-based, project-based, applied, and it's very active. So this is not a seminar lecture based, let's just have someone talk at you for 3 hours and then take a test. I don't think there's any tests in our whole program at all, actually. And so, which some people are like, oh, that's great, but that just means you can't cram for a project. So it's a little, so there's a balance there. But these top 4 circles are our foundational classes. So intro to human-centered design, designing the visual environment, form and composition, context and impact of design. And then after those core classes are 3 of those 4 are taken, then students move into our studio class. So our classes, so we have a studio for social impact and a studio for business. And then we have a capstone class, which is an individual year-long project that each student goes through, where they do the deep dive into different research and analogous efforts around a topic that they're interested in for 1 semester. And then the second semester, they're actually working with a group or applying it and learning from it and capturing the whole personal case study that they develop. And then we have a professional practice class in design, or professional practice and design class, where again, if you don't have to have a design background to come into the program, we want to support you as you go out of the program. So you don't have to have a portfolio to get in, but when you leave, you will have a very robust and very beautiful and very professional portfolio that you walk out with. And then there's 2 open electives that are pretty flexible. So our intro to human-centered design class, we have just a little highlight on each class. This one really focuses on the foundations in design research and emphasizes primary contextual research and methods. So it's really about, here are all these different methods of observations and ethnography and data collection, but also how do you ask really great interview questions? If it is a survey, how do we actually implement the survey, and how do we really prototype something? So there's a really big onboarding part, and then there's a very quick applied actual client part. And in that class, we've worked with people like the State Fair of Texas was one of our clients one year, where we had to improve the waiting experience at the fair. And so we got students tickets to the fair for the whole season, and they had to go in and disrupt that space a little bit based off of the evidence that they've gathered. But this is your intro class. I teach this class, and so I teach the intros and the outro classes essentially. But this is a great, this is the kind of setting the pace and expectation for this process and what it looks like. And then we have these two, designing the visual environment and then form a composition. Designing the visual environment is a 2D graphic design based class. Justin teaches this class, and it's really focused in on what's the visual communication component of this. And so how do we level all students up, even students that have a background in graphic design. I have so much appreciation for this class because it's kind of teaching it more with this human-centered approach to it, and different kind of projects that people might not be familiar with. And then form and composition is our 3D class. And so that is our class that is actually taught out of the makerspace. And so we have these two design classes in here because we expect everyone to prototype and make solutions and ideas and iterate on those, but we want you to be equipped to actually make them and not just like fumble through and do your best. So we want to support all the students to say, here's how you design beautiful presentations, beautiful visual documents, and think about the real, the visual component and output, and that you need to know how to make some stuff and when it comes down to it. So how are you working with the 3D printer, the laser cutter, the woodworking materials, anything like that. So we have experts in that space that are providing great support so that you're equipped to then do really well in the studio classes. And then our context and impact for design class is really focused in on like the broad cultural topics through a design lens. And it includes this discussion and exploration of design topics. And it has a really big focus on what is the context and impact of design, especially in Dallas, so that we can go and look at things that exist and artifacts that are here, so that as we're thinking about them as designers and in our new projects, that we're really mindful of the context and impact that we're creating and contributing to. There's a lot of field trips in this, a lot of guest speakers, a lot of people that are really interested in just kind of coming in and speaking to the reality of what we're working on. So love, this class is really powerful. And then we have our design studio and for business and for social impact. So this is kind of where the rubber hits the road. So if students take those first intro classes, then we feel that they are equipped pedagogically to come in and run a whole human-centered design project class from start to finish. And then we do one semester with a group that is a nonprofit client. And then the next semester is with a for-profit client. And so this is a real life clientele. This is stakeholders. These are interviews. This is like the real deal as much as it can. And from start to finish, we're not just getting up to prototyping. You're doing all of the research and context building from the beginning, and prototyping and learning and presenting. So, and then luckily you get to do it twice. So the first one's always like, okay, let's just kind of figure this out. And then the second one's like, all right, let's refine this and actually do a really great job. Also, the students in each group always change and the client always changes. So it's always there's always a lot of adjustment and adapting and flexibility within it. And then our capstone class, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, is this independent, robust research experience where students really have to identify what they care about. And that's probably one of the hardest parts, is to say, I'm learning all this new framework, these methods, these theories, how it gets applied in all these different spaces. But what do I care about? What do I want to say? And how do I kind of own my own version of human-centered design and apply it as I move forward? And so we have created space for this to be a year-long experience. So that first semester is really focused on the secondary literature, the research that you can gather that already exists, that leads you into the more primary applied focus that says, here's what I learned. I think it's this, I think it's that, and here's what I'm going to do about it and how I'm going to write it up. And so the students end this class, it's basically like a thesis capstone class, but they'll end it with their own personal case study that is highly designed, professionally produced and printed. And you have it, it's kind of like your big moment of, this is what it means to me to do this work. And then again, we have this professional practice. This is a 2-credit hour class where it's dedicated to building your resume, your portfolio, and your designer statement to say, you know, if I had no design background at all, and I walked through this whole master's degree in this, and I worked through all the process, that now I need to tell my story. So how do we really make a specific space here to say, this is how we want to support you and how you tell that story, and that through line to say, I'm overqualified for this job I'm trying to apply for. So this is really exciting. And Justin also teaches this class to really build out what that looks like for each student as they go forward. And then we have a robust set of electives. One of them is another class Justin does. I also teach classes, but also Justin teaches a lot of classes. But he teaches the interactive product design class. So that's the closest class that SMU has to a UX UI design class. So we do not have a full track in UX UI, but we do have this one dedicated class that leans into a digital product of some kind. And so we love this class. I wish we had room for everyone to have to take this class. But it is an elective that has been great. And then these other three classes, design and innovation attitudes, product design studio, and integrated product design, those are all electives that if someone were to take all three of those, you would get a track in industrial design or product design and innovation, which is more of a physical 3D design component to it. And so those are not required at all, but they're just more offerings that we have. The other great part about our electives is that you have basically 6 credits of electives that you can take anywhere on campus. So that includes the Cox Business School. It includes anthropology, sociology, psychology, art. We want students to say, okay, I'm learning all these things. I'm caring about these things that I might not have expected. And I want to take a class in that. So what does that look like? So we work directly with every student to say, here's how we get you in the classes that you want to for those electives. This is an example of what it looks like to go full-time. Again, those electives, those might change your total credit hours depending on which ones you take, but full-time expectation is 9 credit hours per semester. And so that's 3 credits for each class. And so you would definitely easily finish in 2 years if you can go full-time, if people aren't working or if they're figuring out something with their job as like a part-time working space. And then your last semester, you really finish with finishing your capstone and then that professional practice class. And then if you go part-time, we have it paced out in a way that you would do 2 classes ideally at a time. And then there's some like development, you have kind of the beginning of your 3rd year is that development for your capstone project. And then you end with the capstone and professional practice class as well. We have some students who take 1 class at a time. And so it kind of depends. Again, we want to be as accommodating as we can with everyone's schedule, but we do have it designed and structured in such a way and a path, like a degree plan path that is set up for a 2 or a 3-year track. And that is, we would say, is the ideal academic experience for our program. But again, if you can't, or you have to take a semester off or anything like that, again, we try to be as accommodating as you can. And in that space, this really leans into our student experience. So if we are I would say we're a pretty non-traditional graduate program, which basically means we get to build a graduate program we all wish we went to. But that also means that we want to meet our students where they're at in ways that a lot of other programs don't or can't, because we're pretty small, but means we have a high touch hospitality and community of care that we really like to bring in, which that includes things like a very customized orientation that's just for our students, for new students and all of our current students. We all get together at the beginning of the year and it's required. Then we also have a thing called coffee partners, where we try to partner up new incoming students with current students, and they are highly encouraged to get a coffee or beverage of their choice twice a semester with someone they've never met before, and just to learn more about different expertise and different backgrounds and kind of interests. And then every semester after that, you get a new partner. And then the semester you graduate, you actually get partnered with an alumni or a design council member or a designer in resident or someone else that's a little more professional facing to just, again, set you up with more experiences to say, here's how we want to support you as you graduate and go on. We also do one-on-one regular advising. I do the most of the advising with every student that comes in, and we dedicate at least 1 hour that's required before classes are offered. But then I have open office hours and we work directly and get to know everyone really closely. But those one-on-one regular advising hours are essential to make sure that we're learning and I'm on track with what you're wanting and that we're really tracking your goals and hopes and desires to what we can provide and how we kind of move through things. And then again, we have our MADI Alumni Network, which is an official network for all of our alumni that's supported by SMU, but also has its own kind of MADI twist on it. And so our alumni group is very strong. This group came specifically from 2 alumni that said, we got to keep this momentum going even after we graduate. And we want to know the new students that are graduating that we didn't get to take classes with. So how do we basically go from one MADI chapter to the next MADI chapter and stay connected and together? And then again, we have access to design industry professionals through our designer in residence program and our design council member. And then we try to do 4 big, really big events a year, where we're opening again, trying to do public invites and say anyone can come. We just want to tell people about what we're up to. And then of course, if we're going to have a custom orientation at the beginning, we have a very highly customized personal graduation celebration at the end. So we also say that once you're in MADI, you're a MADI member for life, even if you don't graduate. And so we just want to support people, and we want to model what this human-centered approach to graduate school looks like, with all of the things that are even outside of the classroom as much as we can. So here's what we're looking for. And then this is going to get a little more into like logistics around the application process, and then we can go on from there. So we are looking for a belief that design, for students to say, this is what we want in students, that they have a belief that design is everywhere and can be used in any field. If you are kind of like, I'm not really sure I believe in that, then that's fine. We should talk more, but maybe you don't need to do a graduate program in that, and that's okay. But we just want students who are really open to say, I think design plays a part in this and how I want to contribute to society in a better way. We need students with great initiative and grit. This is a graduate program, a robust, intensive program. It is not a certificate, just a certificate or a boot camp. It is a requirement. We're asking a lot of all of our students, and it is not a passive engagement experience. And so we need students who are going to come in and say, they're not waiting to be told what to do next. They're saying, okay, so she said all these things, he said all these things, I'm going to go do all these things and figure out where I'm at. So we want to be really exploratory, but we need students who are going to come in and say, I'm ready to get to work. We need students to have a willingness to be comfortable in ambiguous scenarios. So we are in the city and in neighborhoods that a lot of us have never been into, either by choice or because you're not from Dallas. And so you've never even been into areas like Deep Ellum or North Texas or North Dallas or anything like that. And so we want students who are ready to say, I'm okay going into places and talking to people who I don't know, which is a big ask. But again, we want to put everything that we're teaching everyone into action as fast as we can. So, and then we want students who have a drive to learn new design methods to make a great impact. Again, our focus is really on what is the impact and meaning that we're making from what we're designing, not just, oh, we made this beautiful thing and now we're done, let's do the next thing. We really want to be mindful, if this is human-centered design, if we're putting humans at the center of what we're doing, that means it should be more equitable, more accessible, and more accurate. And so we need to be able to plan for that, which is also why all of our products and final solutions are not always tech, or it's very rarely a website. It's much more about experiences, policies, procedures, systems, kind of bigger picture things that we're trying to engage with. Our application requirements. So you do have to return in your resume and your most recent transcript. And then you do have to have a 3.0 GPA from your last institution, specifically your undergraduate institution. If you don't have that, again, I said our age range is 21 to 64. We've had some students that were like, I went to school so long ago. A lot has happened since then. But we just need to know if you don't have that 3.0 requirement, please just reach out to me and tell me what's going on. And we just need to explain that and justify that if it's close, but maybe not right at that. And then we need 2 letters of recommendation. We'd prefer that these come from professional people that are recommending you, not just a family or friend. And they're just really speaking to this sense of, these kind of core values that are on our website and saying, how do they think you'll do in this program? And then the statement of purpose is really the most important thing. This kind of is our first way to get to know you on paper. But we really just ask that you address these 3 bullets. Okay, so do not overthink it. Do not write us 50 pages of your manifesto or anything like that. We just want to know your point of view about human-centered design and why you think you need MADI to take you to the next level. We want to know what is missing in your life that you think MADI will be able to provide. So like kind of what is going on here? And then we'd like to know what change you'd like to affect through learning and mastering this design process. You do not have to come in with a here's my 5-year plan and I will work on this project and I'll have this job and I will do this thing next. We found students who are a little more open-minded about where they might go do much better because they're not like trying to force something to happen that they thought would happen. But we do want to know kind of where, like what areas and what spaces are you interested in and would like to be a part of as you're walking through this process. So be thoughtful with this. We want to get to know you. We want you to be honest and open with this, and just be intentional with it. So that's what we're looking for. That's the application requirements. The application deadline is July 14th. This is like the latest deadline for any graduate program of all time. We would recommend you, if you're interested in applying, that you apply much earlier than next summer, mostly because that's mid-July and then classes start at the end of August. And that's not a lot of mental time to adjust to going from wherever you're at now to grad school. So the earlier you can apply, the better. Our process is that each month, starting in the spring, we'll do rolling admissions. So at the end of each month, we basically say, okay, who all has applied? Let's review and look at them, at all the applications. As soon as you kind of meet the basic standards of the application process, then we set up an interview with you. And then we do a quick one-on-one interview to just get to know you a little bit more and ask a few more questions. And then after that interview is when we make final decisions on enrollment and admissions. So we try to go as fast as we can. So once you have all of your materials in, we can review everything and then you have an interview and then we get back on everything. It's around, like once we've reviewed your application, it's around 2 to 3 weeks from when you'll know if you've been accepted or not. We don't have a minimum, like we have to hit this many students each semester. We would love to have more students, but we always bring the students in that we think will be the most successful. So sometimes we have a smaller class and sometimes we have a really big class. It just depends on who all is applying at the time, but we're not really holding ourselves to any, like we have to have this number of people. We just want the high quality of people coming in. And then there's a few things within our schools that are trying to support you as much as you can. So there are opportunities to transfer credits. So some students have come to us and said, I took 1 or 2 semesters at another school at the graduate level. Can I transfer those credits in as electives? And we say, if they align and help support this, what we're trying to do, of course. So how do we kind of work with you if you have those existing credits so that you can save a little money and time to go through the program? And then let's say you like love MADI so much that you don't want to leave SMU, that then there's ways to then take MADI credits that you get and apply those to a second degree within either the Lyle School or some other programs that you can kind of transfer out depending on credits and what the program is. So we want to keep you here as long as you can, but we also want you to be successful and do the things and accomplish your goals as much as you can. Right now, the tuition and fees is set up this way. It's about $4,350 per class. You pay as you go for enrollment. But we also say that this is a big investment in your future. So we do not have a huge scholarship base right now. But this is kind of the basic of what it looks like. So for the entire total degree, it's around $45,000. And that's what you would pay. You don't pay that all at once. You pay as you enroll in classes. So the more you enroll in, the more you pay, the less you enroll in, the less you pay. There's also payment plans available. And then again, we really highly recommend that you reach out to financial aid and look at all the other options that the university or the city or the state provides for other aid to get you here. There also is a military tuition policy where you're able to receive up to 50,000 or 50% in tuition if you apply for that or if that applies to you. So just know that there's some opportunities there. And then our scholarships, I say we don't have just like apply for the scholarship and you get this money. The way we help with financial aid internally in our program is through work study opportunities, graduate assistantships, and grant projects. So as other projects come up that are not within a class, we say we need students on it. We're here for students. So we want to do all these fun ideas and projects and different work opportunities, but that means we have to have a student on it. So as those come up, they're not guaranteed, but as they come up, we want to put students on it and then they will get paid for any work that they do that's not within a class. Okay, that is it. There's a ton of information, but we would love to talk to you more. We'd love to answer questions and kind of reach out and keep the conversation going and just work from there. So again, applications are due in July, but we would really love for people to apply earlier. And then we'll kind of open it up from there. So thank you so much.